Hello. Welcome to Meditation Breaks. This is a YouTube channel where we learn meditation. I am Keith. I am your meditation instructor person here on this channel. And more specifically, I like to think of this channel as like a cookbook of meditation, right? There's a lot of different ways we can meditate. There's a lot of different styles and reasons that we might be interested in it. And here we try to like kind of spread it around a little bit because everyone connects with different things. And that is one of the challenges, but also one of the beauties of meditation is that it is definitely kind of finding what works for you is important. But it's nice to know that there's something for everyone, right? So here, each week, barring some event or I have to go to an illness that I have, we first kind of talk about meditation 101. Like, if you've never meditated before, you accidentally are here. You tried to click on some other video and you ended up here. And you're like, what is this? You're in a good place because we start each week with a very baseline introduction. What is meditation? How do we do it? Does it work? Why does it work? How long do I have to do this thing? All these questions that we're probably asking ourselves when thinking about getting into something new. We're going to talk about those. And then we'll do a very short breathing meditation to kind of get everyone situated with, I guess that's kind of how you do it. All right. And then we'll talk about our topic for today and do another short meditation to close out our evening. So that's kind of our cadence here. And last thing I'll say before we get going is if you do have any questions at any time or comment or whatever, you can use the chat feature whenever you like. I try to do my best to always like peek over there and see if there's any questions. You don't have to wait for me to be like, hey guys, does anyone have any questions? You can just fire away. All right. So what is meditation? It's sitting down on a floor like this. We know what it looks like, right? And it's easy to kind of confirm our suspicions that that's what it is, because if you Google meditation, that's what comes up. I always say this, and then like one time I was like, I should check to see if that's true. It's true. It's just countless images of that. And so we can kind of start to feel like meditation is when I'm sitting down cross-legged with my eyes closed. Right? That is a seating position. And some traditions of meditation put a very large emphasis on a specific seating position. But meditation, the act of meditating itself, is not, at least in my opinion, tied to a seating position. And this is great news because I don't know about you, but it's with every passing year, sitting down on the floor seems to be less and less appealing to me. And so if I had to sit on the floor to meditate, well, I'd probably reach a point in my life where that wasn't really going to happen. Fortunately, that is not the case. You can meditate anywhere, in any seat, a couch, lay down, stand up, hang upside down. I wouldn't recommend that, but like you could do it because meditation is here in your mind. It is the act of using your mind to concentrate on something for the purpose of becoming really familiar with it. And this word, familiarity, is steeped in meditation. You can almost kind of think of them as synonyms. And beyond meditation, the impact that familiarity has on our day-to-day, moment-to-moment life is pretty astounding if we think about it. Um, it let's take a look at something like I don't know, walking, right? Um, I mentioned this plenty of times, but I have some very young nephews, and I've was fortunate enough to be able to see them kind of like learn to walk and learn to crawl first, obviously, and I have to say that when they started walking, it wasn't very graceful. You know, first they didn't even know how. They would just kind of sit there, and you had to pick them up. Then they started crawling and stuff, and then they were walking, but they were all stumbling around. Now I'm not like I'm not the most graceful walker myself, but you know, I can hold my own. And this isn't because I'm some great walker. I have an amazing gait, and they don't. Right? Walking is walking. The difference is I've been walking for a real long time, and over that time, the mechanics of walking, the balance that you need, left foot and right foot, left foot and right foot, yeah, it all has become so familiar to me that what happens? I can walk without really thinking about it. Mhm. If I were to ask you, "Hey, can you go walk over there?" You'd be like, "Why?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, just do it." And then you go walk over there, and while you're walking, you're probably like, "I don't know why he's asking me this." You're like thinking about pondering something while moving your body. Right? When you were a kid, right? It wasn't second nature, right? And this is kind of a silly example, but this output, the more familiar you are with something, the like more readily it shows up, more second nature, less effort, concentration, that kind of thing. That output is true no matter what the thing is, whether it's walking, learning a new language, you're starting a new career, right? How do I get to the grocery store? Or like literally everything we do is influenced by our familiarity with that thing. It's a tough word to say. So meditation is often looked at as a relaxation tool. And we might experience that when we are meditating, and then we can kind of think, hey, great news. Whenever I meditate, I'm relaxed. Meditation relaxes me. Meditation equals relaxation. But meditation is doing no such thing. What it is doing is, if this is what we want to meditate on, is it is teaching you to become really familiar with relaxed you. That version of you that is relaxed. You have that version of you. It is not, everyone does. Right? We have different degrees of it showing up. We probably want it to show up more. It's probably a pretty safe bet. But we all have that. Meditation isn't creating it. It's teaching you to become so familiar with being relaxed that what happens? Well, just like learning to walk or anything else, becoming relaxed starts to show up more, right? Relaxed you starts to show up more, starts to become more of your default, right? And so this simple kind of relationship between being familiar with something and the output of it kind of showing up more regularly is the entirety of what we're doing here with meditation. The cool thing about meditation is it is a really interesting way to start to choose what we want to be familiar with, right? Because often it feels like we don't get to choose. If we did, we'd probably never be choosing to be really anxious about social situations or something like that. If that has become familiar to us, if that's something that we're dealing with, but we didn't decide to do that. And so meditation is really a method of choosing what you want to become familiar with and then working towards that. Right? So there it is. Now you know what meditation is. And again, you don't have to sit on the floor, but you can if you want. Some people love doing that. Um, okay, how do we meditate? How do we do this thing? Right? Um, when you start learning meditation, pretty like almost 100% of the time, you start with breathing meditation. You probably have heard of it. You probably have tried it. If you haven't, you've definitely heard the term. It's become pretty ubiquitous, which is cool. Breathing meditation is, wait for it, a meditation where the focal point is your breath. And that's it. Breathing meditation is the same as any other meditation, right? Except the only thing changing is what they call like the object of your meditation. So with breathing meditation, the object of your meditation is your breath. That is what you are focusing on. You don't have to have your breath be the object. You could have walking be the object of your meditation, or listening to music, right? The key to this is that you are single-pointedly concentrating on one thing, right? Single-pointedly concentrating. You're focusing on one thing, which is not something that we are very familiar with. We are extremely familiar with multitasking. It is encouraged in our, society encourages us to, juggle as many things as possible. It doesn't seem like there's enough time in the day to do everything. So we're constantly just practicing this art of juggling. Our mind is juggling bowling pins, quite a few, all the time. And that is really good for getting worldly tasks done, but it doesn't always lend itself to being relaxed. And also, it doesn't lend itself to allowing your mind to really hone in on something, right? Now, even though we're all very familiar with multitasking and not that familiar with purposeful, single-pointed concentration, you have 100% had meditative experiences before, even if you've never officially meditated. If you've ever been in the zone, as they call it, flow state, which is a very much cooler sounding way of saying it, I guess. What happens when you're like in the zone like that, right? Like you're working on a document at work. This is me working, boop, 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 and I lose track of time. I have chronic knee pain, and it's as if my knee pain's gone. Right? It's not. My knee pain's still there. It just has kind of faded into the background a little bit because so much of my focus is on this thing, this task I'm working on, right? I'm essentially single-pointedly focused on this thing, so much so that all the other things, there's not as much room for them. They don't vanish, but it kind of feels as though they do. And that can kind of lead to us relaxing a little bit, right? I mean, if our mind is used to juggling 1,000 bowling pins every 30 seconds, and we're like, hey, why don't you just do one? It'll be like this. No problem. Yeah. So this is kind of what we're after with meditation. We're practicing the art of single-pointed concentration so that we can start to choose what we want to become really familiar with, so that way that thing shows up in our life more often. Boom. Sounds pretty good, right? So let's do a little meditation right now. All meditation, regardless if it's breathing or whatever, basically comes down to like 3 steps, right? That's how we're going to think of it. The first is that we are making a very intentional choice to do this. It sounds unnecessary. I thought so too. But it turns out this is really important because, like I said, we've all had meditative experiences before, but it doesn't always come with us feeling like we've chosen to do that. And that's really what we want to teach our own mind is, hey, mind, not only is there value in focusing on one thing, but we can do it whenever. And so setting our intention is kind of our first step for any meditation. And all I mean by that is we're just going to kind of like say to ourselves a little promise for the next few minutes, I'm going to focus on my breath and only my breath, and that's it, right? Even if you don't believe it, even if you don't want to, this is kind of what we're doing. We're forcing our mind to see that we're choosing to do this. Then step 2 is we're going to do that. We will focus single pointedly on our breath. And whenever you notice that your mind is starting to pick up those other bowling pins, your mind's like, only one. I don't know. Maybe I'll pick up this one about work tomorrow and I'll start thinking about that. Whenever we notice our mind drifting like that, we're just going to say, not right now to those thoughts. That's the saying I like to do here. Like, nah, not right now. That's the attitude I think like we should have to it, right? These thoughts are not unwanted. They're not a distraction. They're not ruining our meditation. They're not proving that we're not good at this. They're not doing any of that. They're just thoughts. Just not now. We'll get to them later. And after we not now those things, we're going to purposely bring our attention fully back to our breath. That's it. 3 steps. Choose to focus single pointedly on something. Notice when your attention is no longer single pointedly focused on that thing, bring your attention back to thing. And this is a little loop that we're going to do. There is no barometer of success here. It's not like, hey, if you get distracted more than 3 times, then your meditation is not good. No, that is not how it works at all. You being here doing this, no matter how busy your mind is or isn't, is perfect, right? We're just practicing. Okay, so we're going to do some breathing meditation together. I will guide it, so you're not going to be in silence, and it'll probably be about like 5 minutes or so. Okay, you'll notice I'm not on the floor. I'm in a chair. You can sit wherever you want. You could also lay down. Do whatever you want. Just make sure you're not noticeably uncomfortable because that might be distracting. And you can go ahead and close your eyes. That often helps with our tendency to get like visually distracted a little bit. And we're going to do a little 5-minute breathing meditation. All right. Whenever you start a meditation, first things first, check in with yourself. Actually ask, how am I feeling right now? What's my mind up to? Maybe you're tired. You've had a long day. Maybe you're feeling energetic, excited to learn something new. Maybe you're feeling happy. You got some good news. Or maybe you're feeling a little melancholy. Something didn't go your way. Whatever it is perfect. We are not trying to change anything. There is nothing to change. We are merely practicing noticing. Practicing being an observer of our own thoughts. This is a technique known as mindfulness. It's a word you probably have heard before. So take a moment and check in. Having done that, we can now set an intention, a promise to ourselves. That intention, that wish, that promise is for the next few minutes. We're going to focus single-pointedly on our own breath to the best of our ability And that's it. All other tasks, they can wait. For the next few minutes, it's just you and your breath together. Allow that promise, that wish to sit in your mind. And with that intention firmly in our mind, we can act on it. You can turn your full, undivided attention to your own breathing, in and out, very gently and very naturally. You do not need to change how you normally breathe here. Whatever comes natural is perfect. In and out, following each breath. At some point, you will undoubtedly notice that your mind may be drifting a little bit. No longer single pointedly focused on your breath and only your breath. Maybe it's thinking a little bit also about what you have to do tomorrow or what you're doing this weekend or something that happened earlier. Whenever you notice that your mind is starting to drift in this manner, we can just say, not right now, to those other thoughts. We'll get to them later. You can actually imagine yourself picking up those thoughts and placing them beside you where they are waiting patiently. And with those thoughts waiting patiently beside you, you can then choose to direct your full undivided attention back to breathing in and out, gently, naturally. Single pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. Each and every day, we breathe countless times. And for all those countless times we breathe each day, few, if any, are we single pointedly focusing on breathing itself. What happens if we do? What happens if we follow our breath moment to moment? What's it like to experience every moment of breathing? When you inhale, imagine you're watching the air, watching it slowly being pulled up into your body. Feel it move through you. Watch it travel. Feel your chest expand to make room for this air. Your shoulders rise. You can feel the energy that this single breath provides. What does breathing in feel like? When you exhale, can you feel your chest contract? Your shoulders slowly descend. Can you watch as that air moves back through your body? Watch as it leaves your body. Watch as it starts to mix in with all the other pockets of air until it is completely vanished. What does breathing out feel like? When we single pointedly focus on something, a cool byproduct of doing so is that we start to notice some subtleties about that thing we're focusing on. Subtle interests, subtle fascinations. Right now, we're learning to find some subtle interests about our own breath. How wonderful is that? That you have the ability to find interest, to experience the power of curiosity using something as simple and accessible as your own breath. I wonder what else that happens in your day you can find these subtle interests in. Breathing in, breathing out, very gently and very naturally. Keep bringing your attention back to your own breath whenever it drifts. This is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. And right now, that thing, the only thing you want to focus on, is breathing in and out gently, naturally. For the last few moments here, just enjoy sitting, relaxing with you and your breath. No need to think about too much. You just take a little time for yourself. Okay. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. Oh, Patricia, I hope everything's a-okay with me being not frozen, unfrozen. Okay, great job. You did it. You just meditated. Yay! Check that off your bucket list. 3 steps, you know, on paper, doesn't look that hard. But if you're not familiar with doing this, you might have noticed your mind seems to jump around a lot, you know? Great. I'm glad. This is an extremely common experience and one that should not be surprising to you, because if this is not something that you're familiar with, your mind is like, hey, yoo-hoo, what are we doing here? I can focus on like a million things, right? That's what our mind is telling us. And so this is a practice. It is a slow burn. Meditation is a very slow burn. Regardless of how busy your mind felt, or how, if it was not feeling busy, great. That doesn't matter. It's not an indication of how adept you are at meditating. We are all equally capable of meditating. It's just practice, just like anything else, right? Cool. So there you go. That's breathing meditation. If you have any questions on that, feel free to ask me, of course. I'm going to move on to our topic for today, which is a nice little continuation of what we were just talking about, because what we're going to talk about today is kind of using meditation as a way to investigate things, which is a huge part of meditation. So what do I mean by that? What we just did, essentially, is what is generally thought of as pacifying our mind, right? Pacifying the busyness of our mind. And that has, in and of itself, incredibly wonderful benefits. We feel more relaxed. We become really familiar with feeling that way, and it shows up. I mean, like, that's all good stuff, right? But meditation doesn't need to only sit in that space, right? The best way that I can explain this, I think, is with this example that I've used 3,000 times. So apologies to anyone who comes here regularly. Imagine that I call you up. I go, hey, it's Keith. And you're like, who? I'm like, for meditation, whatever. We got to go on a hike. You got to see the amazing reflection in this lake. And you're like, okay, fine. So you and I go on a hike, right? And it's a beautiful day, and we're walking to this lake, and the whole time I'm like, man, where do you see this reflection? It's like you're looking at a photo. It's so incredible. And we make it to the lake, and just as we make it to the lake, we feel a couple of raindrops, boop, 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 right? And we're like, oh, I don't think it's that bad. And then it starts to really rain, right? Like it's like a downpour of rain. And that lake, all the raindrops are hitting the surface of it, right? And so what happens to the reflection? It's obscured. We can't really see it. Like, I might be like, hey, can you see any of the reflection? You're like, I don't know. I think that's grass. Right? The reflection of the lake is obscured by the raindrops. Right? Similarly, our kind of relaxed self can be obscured by the bombardment of thoughts, the millions of raindrop thoughts that are happening to us, right? So what we just worked on is essentially clearing away some of those raindrops, right? And we might want to clear them all away. But even if we don't, even if we only clear away 10%, I don't know, that's 10% more clear that the reflection is going to be, right? Cool. So let's say we are able to clear away a bunch of the raindrops, right? I don't know how, but willpower or whatever, sheer tyranny of will. We managed to do that. And then I'm like, okay, well, let's turn around and go home. Like, we're going to look at the reflection. That's why we came here, right? I was like, hey, we gotta go check this thing out. We spent so much effort to pacify, to clear the raindrops. And now we have, well, let's look with that clarity at the surface of the lake, right? Hey, Lucia. So this is kind of the next phase of meditation, and it is often referred to as contemplation, which is just a word, whatever. But the idea is that we pacify the business of our mind with, something like breathing meditation or whatnot. And then we intentionally use that more clear mind to think about something, to investigate something. Why would we do that? Why investigate things? Investigation is a huge part of not only meditation, but starting to grow, right? Mentally, emotionally, everything. This concept of investigating is sometimes referred to in like Eastern philosophy as wisdom. And the Eastern philosophy will describe wisdom as knowing the way things are versus the way they appear to be, which I think is a really cool definition of wisdom. Right? Wisdom, knowing the way things are versus the way that they appear to be. And that comes from investigation. So let's do another example where I bother you and make you hang out with me. Okay, I'm calling you again. Hey, sorry about the lake thing. Didn't go as exactly as planned. I'm taking you to my favorite restaurant to make up for it. Right? And you're like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, I insist. And you're fine. And I take you to this restaurant, and I know the chef, right? This is how you know it's just an example, because I don't know any chefs. But I take you here, and the chef comes over, and he goes, hey, Keithy, who's your friend? And I'm like, hey, we meditate together. And then he goes, all right, I'm going to bring out your favorite appetizer on the house. House, great. And so they bring out my favorite appetizer, which just so happens to be your least favorite food on earth. Whatever that is, right? And so now you and I are at those, one of those cute little tiny tables with the white and red checkered cloth. And right in the center is this appetizer. And I'm like, oh, amazing. I can't wait. I'm salivating. And you're like, ooh, no. Why? The appearance of this appetizer is pretty different for us, right? For me, it appears as though this appetizer is extremely pleasing to me. I very much am into this. To you, however, this exact same appetizer, food, dish, whatever, is not appealing. Maybe it's like make you gag a little bit or whatever. We are both looking at the same food item, right? It's not like they brought out two and mine's awesome and yours is not. It's the same one. We are at the same table in the same timeline of life. Everything is the same. And yet, two totally different experiences of this food. So, which is it? Is the appetizer appealing or gross? Which one of us is correct? Neither, right? Because this food item is not inherently tasty or not tasty. It lives in like a sort of flexible state. This food is just this food. The only way it becomes pleasing or not pleasing is when the mind of somebody experiencing it labels it as such. Right? We can see that by thinking about it. If this food was inherently delicious, well, then everyone would like it. And that's not the case. So what we're kind of getting at here is we're taking a weird example and using the power of investigation to do a little wisdom check on it to see if this food exists as it appears or if there's some different stuff going on there, right? And again, to me, it appears to be delicious, but to you, not. And so its appearance is not exactly indicative of how it actually exists. This food is just food. We, our mind, is what labels it. And you might be like, what the heck is he talking about this for? I don't understand. And it's a weird example. But the same is true with, let's say, anxiety. That's how I got into meditation a long time ago, to kind of try to help with that. And my initial vision is like, I'm gonna meditate, and then it'll be gone. I won't be anxious anymore. Woo, right? But I was, I was still anxious, and still to this day have anxiety. But what meditation did do for me is teach me to look at it, to do this wisdom check on my own anxiety, right? And so instead of the anxiety I have was like itching, if you must know, instead of me just kind of inherently feeling like itching is anxiety inducing, over time, through investigation, I'm able to use this exact methodology to kind of logically see that it's not always like that, right? My mind might be really familiar with it feeling that way, but my partner, she gets an itch and she's like, whatever, right? Two totally different experiences. And so without investigation, things seem to exist in one way, the way that we're seeing them. They do not seem to be flexible, very black and white, yes, no, whatever. When we investigate something, it opens up the opportunity to check to see if that is true, right? And the goal with using meditation as an investigation tool is not necessarily to like come to some wildly profound, resolution about something, like if you meditate on it, you probably still leave being like, I don't like that appetizer. But the objective is not to like change how we're viewing it, but to acknowledge, to kind of disrupt this notion that things exist in one way, as opposed to being able to exist in many different ways at the same time. So we're going to do a meditation together. And this meditation is going to be about somebody cutting us off on the highway, right? Which, when that happens, you, me, everyone are like, hey, what a jerk, right? So we're going to investigate that reaction, because that is a very common reaction. I mean, some of us more than others. Maybe that you don't do any of that, but like I think this is one we can kind of get behind, right? Like somebody does something, and we are like, "What a jerk that they did that." Right? So we're going to investigate that and see what happens. That's it. Cool. Okay. So put on your Sherlock Holmes hat. Does anyone else wear that hat? Or like just maybe cornered the entire market? I don't even know what that hat's called, except the Sherlock Holmes hat. Doesn't matter. Okay. Get comfy. Maybe you're like, whoa, Keith's been talking a lot. I'm exhausted now. I will lay down for this next meditation. Go right ahead. Get comfy, close your eyes, and let's meditate together to close out our evening. Once again, just take a moment to check in with yourself. What's your mind up to? Just now, in this exact moment. No need to compare it to before. Before is done. And having checked in, we can set an intention. And this time, our intention is twofold. First, to pacify the busyness in our mind with a little breathing meditation by focusing single-pointedly on your own breath. And then once we have done that to the best of our ability, we're going to use that more clear mind to think about something, to purposely investigate. Let this promise sit in your mind. This is your only task. And with that promise made, intention set, we can act on it. You can begin focusing single-pointedly, exclusively on your own breath, breathing in, breathing out, gently, naturally. And if you notice your attention starting to be pulled in different directions, no longer exclusively on your own breath, we can just say, not right now, to those other thoughts. We'll get to them later. Plenty of time for that. Single-pointedly focused on each moment of each breath. Having spent some time purposely engaging in breathing meditation, perhaps our mind is feeling a little less busy, even just a microscopic amount. We can use that more relaxed, more clear mind, however large or small the gamut. We can use it purposefully to think about something, to investigate. I'd like you to imagine that you're driving. And picture the road and the surroundings. Really put yourself there. And as you're driving, somebody cuts you off. And you honk your horn, and they honk theirs. And immediately we feel this thing building, frustration. And we may think, what a jerk. Without any further investigation, that person who cut us off exists in one way, the way that we are viewing it. And in that way, they're a jerk. And so, without investigating, that is our determination. There is no flexibility. Very matter of fact. That's how it appears to us initially, instinctively. Is that how it actually exists? Is this person actually a jerk? Have you ever cut somebody off by accident or whatnot? Probably. I certainly have. Your best friend certainly has. You don't think they're a jerk. Maybe this was unintentional. A spider sprung from their visor above the driver's seat, and spooked them, and they swerved. Doesn't make cutting someone off okay, but it might make them not be a jerk. Maybe they're racing to the hospital. They have a loved one next to them in a lot of pain. I could certainly see myself cutting someone off if I was in that scenario. Doesn't make it okay. But what it does do is show the flexibility of the situation. Using wisdom, we can start to identify the way things appear to us and see if that's how they actually are. Inherently so. And in this situation, and in most, I think what you will find is that there is some nuance, some possibilities, different perspectives, different ways of looking at something. This is wisdom. And it comes from investigation, voluntarily investigating something. Not so that you change your mind, but so that you have all the information to decide how things actually are. And that's up to you. the last few moments here, I'd like you to just imagine what your life might be like. What might be different about how you react to situations, how you view different things if you did this wisdom check. Would things seem more flexible, more interesting? Would you be more curious? Whatever feelings come up, you just sit with those for a few moments. Okay. Whenever you are ready, you can open your eyes. Hello. So, there it is. We did a meditation, we did a contemplation, we did it all. We started the same way we did when we started today's class by doing some breathing meditation, right? We kind of chill our mind out a little bit, maybe put down some of the bowling pins we're juggling. And then we're using that more clear mind to think about something. And in this case, we're taking an imaginary scenario that is believable, like it probably happened to us. But we are taking an imaginary scenario and then practicing this art of investigation, of wisdom, right? And this was just one example, but this type of investigation can be done for a lot of different things, right? And it's not always pleasant, I mean, if we're, want to learn more about our anxiety, like I was talking about, me doing, like it's not always very pleasant to do that, we start to feel, we're thinking about it now, we're feeling bad, and like then sometimes we feel discouraged, like, oh, why am I struggling with it? Like it's not always easy, but what it does do is open up the possibilities of viewing it in more than one way. And without curiosity, without investigation, you will look at things in one way, right? Thinking about who would like to share this with. Benefit relationships, yes. Yeah, it's probably the thing about meditation that I found to be the most, like, moved my mind the most. And by that I mean, like, it was most interesting to me, because I started to think about, well, okay, well, like getting cut off, like it makes sense for that, but what about this? What about this? What about this? And it applies to all these things, right? So it seems like a pretty useful tool to be able to do that. So glad you enjoyed it. That's it for today. Hopefully you had a good time. If you did, yay. Come back next week. We'll be doing another meditation thing. What that thing is, I don't know yet, but it will involve meditating. I can guarantee that. And if you were like, hey, you know what? Meditation is super cool. Keith's an okay guy. I would like to learn meditation with him. I teach private one-on-one virtual meditation. If that's something that's interesting to you, you can just email me and we'll find a time to make it work. And this setting can be really good for focusing on stuff that's very particular to you. Maybe you're like, Keith, I don't want to investigate anything. I just want to relax. I'll be like, cool, we'll do that. So if that is interesting to you, please email me and we'll figure out a time to get together. My email is keith@meditationbreaks.com. Keith@meditationbreaks.com, typing. Okay. I think that's spelled correctly. Great. Oh, Patricia, I think so too, And Patricia, I feel like that's such a really amazing way to feel about something like this, because, what are we really doing? We're just thinking, you know, that's all we're doing, right? But we're looking at it now. We're like, man, it's kind of cool, right? We have this ability to think, to investigate, to learn, to become familiar with stuff, and like it's kind of cool that we can do that. I agree. Okay, that's my email. Email me if you want to do a one-on-one, or you just want to say hi or whatever. And have a great week and weekend, and I'll see you next time. All right, take care.